Silicon Valley Bank is the go-to bank for this industry. It's not a bank that some retail customers might have heard of, but if you are in the startup ecosystem, if you're in the venture capital ecosystem, it is absolutely the go-to bank. So for a bank of that size and stature to fail is very frightening to people. Just to give you a sense, 2,500 VC firms bank with Silicon Valley Bank, or I should say banked with Silicon Valley Bank. What happened is that there was a mismatch in timing of cash management. So meaning money in was on a much longer timeline than money out. So money in, they were putting it into treasuries and things that you couldn't get your money out of. And money out, startups were taking money out at a much faster rate because of what's been happening in the market. So that is a fundamental financial mismatch. And then you pair that with rising interest rates, and then you pair that with Peter Thiel's tweet. And people got scared, and once one person gets scared, they tell their friends, and it very quickly spread. I haven't ever gotten so many texts and emails in a day about anything in my life. Yeah, I would liken the Peter Thiel involvement to being like a very small snowball at the top of the hill, which is it could have turned into nothing, but it gained momentum, and then one person talks to 5 people, those 5 people talk to 25 people, and it just very quickly went viral, and he's a very influential person in the market. So he's not to blame for sure, but he was a part of it, and very much one of the original instigators. Here's how I would say it's the same, and here's how it's different. In terms of how it's different, it is just at a much smaller scale. So the reality is if you are a retail customer, don't worry about, your personal checking account, your personal savings account. Your mortgages are fine. So I think on the one hand, it does not have nearly the scale and widespread impact that 2008 did. However, if you are in the startup and VC world, it is as catastrophic as that. And so for a small number of people, it is as impactful, but definitely not as widespread. I think that it's important to separate between the 3 different groups. The first is startups, the second is VCs, and the third is people who invest in VCs. So from a startup's perspective, for the most part, people are financially going to be fine. They're going to get their money out. VCs were actually never at that much risk to begin with. VCs don't hold a ton of cash. So when a venture capital firm says, I manage $100 million, they don't have $100 million sitting in the bank. They tend to do capital calls, and they very quickly deploy that cash. So they don't have a ton of cash in the bank. In terms of people who invest in VCs, I think this is going to make them very scared. They aren't going to be that financially impacted, but I think they're going to be very scared about investing future money into venture capital. It is a bad thing, but again, I don't think it's as far-reaching as what happened before. Regulators are trying to make sure that things don't get worse, right? They very much want to save this big bank, and startups and venture capital are the lifeblood of innovation, and things that impact the startup world now are going to impact the broader market in 3 years and 5 years. And so I think they did something smart, which is to take a relatively small amount of money to save this depositors, and that way it won't have more far-reaching effects. I think it's really important to separate cash and loans. From a cash perspective, startups are fine. They are going to be able to get their money out, they're going to be able to make payroll, and things are going to be fine. I think from a loans perspective, we have 100 portfolio companies that we are invested in, and I had quite a few emails over the last 72 hours of folks asking me about other sources of loans. I think that is going to have not as scary and catastrophic of an impact, but that's going to be a longer term impact of the lack of loans from a really large lender. So I don't think that we're going to see many new kind of SVB competitors. I don't think we're going to see new banks crop up as a result of this. I think what's happening for a lot of people right now is they're trying to diversify where they park their cash. So I think you're going to see less consolidation at the top, and you're going to see more people have small accounts in lots of different banks. That's one. And the second thing is I think you're going to see a little bit of diversification away from venture capital. This has already been happening. But again, I've gotten a lot of emails around venture debt, around revenue-based financing, other ways to finance a company that's different than venture capital. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that going forward. So I think we have to, again, talk about different groups. There's early stage startups, there are late stage startups, and there are venture capitalists. And also there's valuation, there's deal flow, there are exits. And I think this is not really going to affect valuations. I actually don't think this is going to dramatically change valuations. They've already been coming down. I think that will continue to happen. I think that fewer deals are going to get done in the short term because everyone's just a little bit scared, a little bit of a pause. I think the bigger impact is institutional money managers who invest in VC. This is going to make them pause. And those are large checks, which we're not going to see withdraw in the next, 1, 2, or 3 months. But I think in the next 6 months, 12 months, we're going to see an impact there. I am still bullish on venture capital. In general, it's a little bit counter-cyclical. So in a recession, venture and startups actually tend to do a little bit better. Also, things were already correcting. Deal flow was already down. Valuations have already been correcting in the late stage. The exit markets were already deflated. I think you're going to see kind of a minor blip, but I think things are going to continue on their trajectory. Do I think Silicon Valley Bank is going to change the slope of that decline? Maybe a little bit. But I am still very optimistic about the industry as a whole, and I think there are still a lot of great companies to invest in. I think that venture capital is really focused on revenue, and people don't tend to talk too much about cash, right? So cash management. And I think that people are going to be talking a little bit more about that, which is a good thing. I also think that we've all learned to not panic, right? And I really hope that what we learn from this is if you actually look at the fundamentals, this was not really a financial crisis. This was very much a sentiment crisis. And I'm hoping that people learn to panic a little bit less going forward. I don't know if it will happen, but that is certainly my hope.